Dear colleagues, this is a case of a very leathery cataract. I'm gonna stain the capsule with trypan blue, inject some viscoelastic, and then using 25 gauge Grisauer forceps, I aim for a larger rhexis so I can easily maneuver the cataract inside the bag. The round capsular rhexis is done. Notice the blood in the anterior chamber. The moment the anterior chamber pressure went down, collector channels being open, the blood from the collector channels came into the anterior chamber, which is proof that the patency of the trabecular meshwork in that area. Before the surgery, we did gonioscopy, and some quadrants were with anterior synechia. I made a pit into the thick leathery nucleus, and then with the lateral chop I managed to crack the half of the nucleus all the way through the posterior plate, rotating the nucleus, and then propagated that crack all the way through. And in this way I have two separate heavy nucleuses. I hope you noticed the fact that when you do a lateral chop or direct chop or horizontal chop, it's important to not cross the middle of the nucleus with the Phaco probe in order to have a deep purchase on that. And once you do that, you are more likely to get a crack that's propagated all the way through to the posterior plate. If you do cross the middle of the nucleus with the Phaco probe, you're gonna be with both instruments in one part of the nucleus, and it's more difficult to achieve a crack that's going to the posterior plate. Notice the fact that this leathery nucleus is getting smaller and smaller with every chop, and I'm trying to do as much chopping as possible so the pieces are smaller and smaller in order to have less ultrasound at the end of the case that is used. In this way we protect the cornea. Notice the bevel down Phaco needle. I'm choosing to keep the bevel sideways or downwards, or if it's necessary to rotate it towards the piece that I'm trying to emulsify it. In this way the vacuum is directed exactly where I'm intended to use it. So the pieces of the nucleus are aspirated straight into the Phaco needle, and the ultrasound is propagated towards the posterior plate, posterior capsule, or the side, not towards the cornea. I like to stop at the middle of the Phaco emulsification when one of the heminucleus is emulsified, and replenish the AC with more viscoelastic. It's an extra measure to protect the endothelium in these leathery cases where the patients are diabetic and have this very chewy type of nucleus, and takes a lot of energy to take them out of the eye. These cases is good to just take your time. They last longer, of course, but with patience you can manage it. At the middle of phaco emulsification, the pupil went down, the iris is not dilated anymore, so the moment we touch the iris, that will lose even more and more dilation. You can stop and place some mydriatics inside the eye, or some surgeons prefer to put iris hooks or pupil dilation devices, and that will help you to have a bigger pupil and work seeing more of the nucleus. But of course you can do it without any of those devices, just keeping the phaco emulsification into the central area of the pupil and not rush the surgery. Just slowly take your time and bit by bit, piece by piece, do as many chops as possible. Stay with the phaco probe in the middle of the pupil, and any case can be conquered. Sometimes you have stubborn pieces of nucleus that are stuck in between the phaco probe and the iris, but going with the phaco probe more inside the eye, the irrigation will push the pieces, and you can continue the phaco emulsification, or you can just push on the iris in top of that part of the nucleus, like in this case, and that will release it from the bag, and you can continue aspiration and phaco emulsification. And that's the end of phaco time. In this case was probably double the time or triple than a regular case, but it's worth it to have a clear cornea the next day. In these diabetic patients that they recover slower, it's very important to take your time and do the phaco emulsification in a safe area and in a safer manner. Cleaning up the bag is not much cortex left, and injecting the IOL under irrigation probe with the auto cert, and then releasing those synechia, anterior synechia, doing synechulitis using the irrigation probe. And that's the end of the case. Thank you for your attention.